Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone. My name is Rabiatul Adawiyah binti Adnan. Today, my group are going to talk about the current issues in our education system. So, what went wrong in Malaysia's national educational system? Okay. Developments in the education system in Malaysia have stimulated changes in the role, duty and responsibility of teachers. The effect not only pertains to classroom teaching but also to various duties and responsibilities with regard to these changes. So, what can you see from the interesting topic from the article New Straits Times above? Non-teaching duties a major concern. Okay, as we know, the primary role of teacher is to just teach, but this is not the case in our schools today. The increasing of teachers' workload is undesirable in school in Malaysia. Currently, teachers getting more overloaded job or non-teaching duties to be fulfilled. From the article, the teaching expert Dr. Anwar Ahmad said teachers were overburdened with non-teaching workload and early retirement enabled them to end the work pressure. Some issues that were pointed out from the article, which in some schools, teachers oversee school canteen operation, manage textbooks, and some are even tasked with ensuring the cleanliness of school toilets. They must also be part of committees coupled with the dozens of reports and forms that they are required to submit to school administrator. Therefore, the current issues that my group are going to present under staff and personal development issue is about teachers' workload. So, what is actually teacher workload? Okay, the first one, the workload refers to all activities taking up the teacher's time directly and indirectly with professional duties, responsibilities and interests. Next, according to Muhammad Saudi 1998, workload means the amount of time performed by a teacher on the academic and non-academic duties in or outside the classroom. In addition, workload refers to a formal responsibility entrusted by the school and that must be performed by the teacher. Teachers have to perform various tasks, namely as class teacher, duty as head of subject panel, secretary of sport, and several other tasks. Workload is also a form of responsibilities expected to be performed by teachers, although not favorable. These responsibilities include teaching and learning, co-curricular activities, file management, meetings, and anything related to the official duties as a teacher. Referring to the many definitions of workload, we could conclude that workload is the total time taken for teachers to accomplish their official duties in or out of the school hours. Workload could be measured by the total time taken to accomplish a particular task. Okay, now let's look into the example of teacher workload. Workload can be categorized into three parts, which are technical work, administrative work, and managerial work. Technical work is a work that a person does because of his profession, experience, and qualification. In school, this means preparing lesson, teaching, and marking students' work. Next, administrative work is related to the organizational maintenance and it is usually clerical in nature. In school, this includes teachers' jobs such as filling forms, making lists, preparing students' background information, preparing paperwork, collecting money, and typing letters. Apart from that, managerial work is a work for a person to set the standard for the organization. In school, this involves discussing timetable for social activities, co-curricular activities, grouping students based on their ability, deciding agenda for meeting, which are a part of the teacher's responsibilities in the school that needs to be done. So, why and how it became an issue on our education? Workload issues have been a concern of all teachers and teachers' unions during the last decade and likely to produce negative outcome. How it became an issue on our education because it affects performance teacher in teaching. Teachers' increasingly complex and challenging duties causes stress. A task which was before a mere responsibility now becomes a workload. This surely is a discomfort for teachers, and being forced to accomplish the task will result in dissatisfaction. Because of increasing workload, teachers also lack sufficient rest. Based on the previous study, most of the school hold activities on Saturdays, such as extra classes, sports practice, class cleanliness, club, and society activities. These include activities with the administrator, such as the latihan dalam perkhidmatan, where the school counseling service invites speakers to talk about various issues which are usually done on Saturdays too. Excessive workload affect the emotion management of the teachers. Past studies have reported that teachers felt frustrated, mentally exhausted, excessively worried, depressed, anxious, and at times defensive towards others because of being burdened with workload. An increase in teachers' workload has also been identified as an undesirable consequence of site-based school management.
Okay, next, let's see the solution to reduce, to monitor, and to solve this teacher workload issue. So recently, this teacher workload issue has been wide topic discussed in education. This is due to changes in education policy that cause the teacher experiencing workload which is reaching to a critical level. So actionable solution should be taken, especially by the government and the school itself, to reduce, to monitor and solve this issue. Okay, then first let's say on what the Ministry of Education can do to reduce, to monitor and to solve this issue. So the government should look into reducing this teacher workload to enable the teacher focus more on the student in school and to help the teacher to develop their core value in teaching. So I think the first thing that the government can do is develop an effective guideline where the government should provide a guideline for each school that set the maximum of teaching hour per week, the maximum number of committee the teacher should be part of in schooling session, and other details that can help to reduce the teacher burden in school. Second, also I think that the government can hire a teaching assistant for each school that responsible to manage the clerical work such as the data entry and the record keeping for teacher. Maybe for example for the SBA that have been implemented now in school. So this higher teaching assistant can help such as the data entry and the record keeping for teacher. So this can help the teacher to return to their core business, which is teaching, without thinking about all of this administration aspect. Next, let's see what the school can do to reduce, monitor and solve this teacher workload issue. So the school must develop and create a well-being strategy to address and reduce teacher burden in school. So the first thing that the school can do is acknowledge the teacher burden and workload by providing a help. For example, the school administration can help the teacher by providing a mentor which are more experienced in the task that the teacher have problem with. Second, the school also, I think, should assess the school workload and how the teacher are feeling. For example, the school administration can conduct a survey on the teacher mental health and the teacher perception on their current responsibilities and tasks, where the school also should carry out a polls and research that quantify how much the teacher are expected to do in a school year. Other than that, the school also can offer training to a struggling teacher. School administration can provide special training to teachers to help them deal with their teaching planning, especially for the new teacher. For example, the school can provide positive coaching to teachers that have struggled in managing their time effectively. Next, the school also can reduce the class size. The increase of class size in school is to be said as one of the factors that contribute to high level of stress of the teacher. So I think by limiting the class size, it will not only reduce the stress and the workload level of the teacher, but also will improve the educational outcomes for the student. The school also should rethink the assessment that conducted in school. Yes, of course, student assessment is a necessary part of education, but there are ways that to conduct this assessment that can reduce the teacher workload. For example, is a few options which is include the self-assessment, the peer assessment, and adopting software that can aid in assessment. So lastly, the school also can establish a school well-being committee, which this committee play a role in providing support and set commitment to the well-being and the mental health of the teacher in school. So this committee, for example, can provide emotional support to the struggling teacher. Other bodies that can help to reduce, monitor and solve teacher workload are parent and teacher association in school. So this parent-teacher association can help the teacher burden by providing financial support, handling an event, handling a meeting, in reducing the teacher burden in this aspect. So that's all for the solution to reduce, monitor and solve the teacher workload issue in school. And I pass the presentation to the next presenter.
Hi everyone, my name is Putri Kalyani Radia binti Faizal Anwar. So I will present about factor of teaching workload. There are few factors that affect teaching workload, such as like increased class size, longer teaching hours, manual feedback, and also poor teacher management. I will elaborate later in next slide. First and foremost is increased class size. Class size can affect teaching and learning in different ways. A class with large numbers of students lead to increased number of academic and pedagogical issues, which in turn lead to increased administration and management responsibilities. Key benefits of smaller class size include establishing stronger relationships between students and teachers. The teacher has more potential to identify students on the edge of the group in their learning, something that may be difficult to observe in larger classes. And also, students may collaborate better because there are less students for teachers to potentially discipline and control, giving the teacher more time to grow the collaboration and achieve in-depth learning. Next is Longer teaching hours. Okay. Working as a teacher requires excellent time management skills. Teachers need to balance the long-term goals of the classroom, the immediate educational needs of the students, and the large volume of paperwork that comes with every assignment. Between writing lesson plans, grading exams, and teaching, teachers often feel that it is impossible to fit everything into the allocated time frame. Teachers are prone to burnout due to long hours of teaching and a heavy workload. Workload has a significant impact of the level of burnout experienced by the teachers. Workload has an impact on teachers' performance as well. To avoid stress and burnout, it is recommended that every school administrator adhere to proper workload assignment. The teaching professions involve being subjected to various job demands that often underpin a perception of a heavy workload. Other examples of job demands are multiple meetings that interfere with preparation time, administrative paperwork generated by the management, and being subjected to constant reforms and changes that demand reorganization of work and also work tasks. The high workload was not associated with the teaching itself, but instead to the continuous growth of the new demands that were added without removing other work tasks. I also found that one article stating that teachers stated that they had to deal with new technological systems, new requirements for long-term educational training to align the teaching with the goals, new needs for grading and assessment of student results, and extensive individual development plans for each student with increasing time pressure. It was perceived to cause unplanned changes in the schedule and a higher workload. Alright, next is manual feedback. Teachers must provide a great amount of manual feedback. Manual feedback can range from daily formative assessment to summative assessment like tests and essay. Grading long form writing like essay is especially time consuming and can include writing or typing the same comments over and over again, and it makes teachers have more workload. Last but not least is poor teacher management. Teachers have a strong influence on the quality of education, and their performance depends on personnel management in particular. Poor management of teachers can lead to overworkload, overcrowding of some classrooms, and together with low salaries has a very negative impact on teacher motivation. Teachers are the main resource of any education system and requires specific management. Teacher also a management is a component of human resources management defined as the search for the best possible match between human resources and the needs of organization in terms of quantity and quality. Teacher management function include recruitment, training, and motivation of personnel, their deployment, and the establishment of staffing norms, wage negotiation, and organization of pay, follow-up, and evaluation of performance, planning of future needs, the development of communication system, or yet again making opportunities available for personnel and professional development.
Hi and Assalamualaikum everyone. Now, I will start with my part in which I will explain about theory related to teachers' workload. Before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Atira Shazwani binti Abdullah. For theory related to the issue of teachers' workload, I choose functionalism or functionalist theory. In this part of the presentation, I will cover about the basic introduction on functionalism, which include what is functionalism theory. Secondly, I will explain further on the relation of functionalism with teachers' workload and some examples in school settings. Before we go into depth of how functionalism related to teachers' workload, we need to take a look at the definition of the functionalism first. According to a trustful source, functionalism, or also known as structural functionalism, is a framework for building theory that sees society as a complex but orderly and stable system with interconnected structures and functions or social patterns that operate to meet the needs of individuals in a society. This theory was created by Émile Durkheim, a French philosopher and sociologist. In a simple word, this theory explains about every person in the society has a specific job and role, and they need to do that for everything to work. And all these people that live in the society work together whether they realize it or not. Functionalism believes there's an equilibrium to society where our lives need to be balanced. This theory emphasizes that society is relatively stable and things occur in society are for a specific function, and those functions help maintain stability. In education perspective, the functionalist theory stresses on the role of schools in preparing students for participation in the institutions of society. Functionalism in education focuses on how education serves the needs of society through development of skills, encouraging social cohesion, and sorting of students. Like this one functionalist named as Parsons says, that the education system is fair and meritocratic, meaning success or failure is based on the amount of talent a person has and the amount of hard work they put in. So, that is what functionalists believe, where schools are the place to sift, sort, and select students for a specific job based on their ability and effort. Now, we proceed with the relation of functionalism with teachers' workload and few examples based on the school settings. According to functionalism theory, every individual in the society has to play their parts to maintain social stability. Like for teachers, their role in the society is by providing the education to the students. To maintain the stability of the society, teachers need to give the best education to produce high-quality students that will be beneficial to the society later. For that, teachers' teaching needs to be in line with 21st century learning, where the uses of technology is prominent in education. Unlike before, the teaching is done traditionally, where teachers only need to teach and spoon-feed the students. But in today's education, the lesson plan has to include active learning, which involve participation of the students in the class. For example, teachers need to properly plan the materials for the teaching and arrange the suitable class activities for each of the class that they teach. This means their work now is double compared to previous traditional teaching. Not to mention, they also need to do other office works like writing report for the school or involved in other schools meeting. Because of many job scope that they need to cover, many teachers experience workload. Durkheim, the proponent of this functionalism theory, says that school teaches children the specific skills they will need for the workplace that match the academic needs of society. Another functionalist, Parsons, also says that school teaches children the necessary social skills they need for wider society and the academic skills needed for the workplace. So, teachers are the individuals that are responsible to teach these necessary skills to the students, and they are the ones who will help students plan the future. In order to teach specific skills for students as a preparation for their work later, teachers not only have to provide academic needs of the students, but also their social needs. In school, social needs mostly refer to the needs of students in terms of their interaction with other people, like how their behavior and attitudes affect their study. Functionalists believe that our behavior is shaped by the social structure. So, students' behavior are determined by how they were shaped in the school. Thus, this is a huge responsibility for the teachers to take, where they were given trust by the society to provide the needs of the students for the sake of their future. For example, teacher needs to deal with students-related problems such as discipline problems. So when this happens, teachers need to take over the roles of the parents. From here, it can conclude that teachers have extra work to do because their work now is not only do the teaching in the classroom, but also solving students' problems. They need to come up with the best way to approach the students and also think of the ways to solve their problems. Not only that, they also now have other works to do, which is they need to conduct a meeting to discuss about the issues of these students, and they need to make a report about it. Not to mention, they they also need to contact the parents of the students. So by looking at this, we see that these procedures are complicated and this has added up their work. It will become a heavy workload for them too if the parents are not cooperating. Functionalists believe that society is held together by social consensus in which members of the society agree upon and work together to achieve what is best for society as a whole. So in here, it can conclude that teachers need to play their roles in the society by helping other teachers. By working together, the workload can be reduced. Everyone in the society needs to play their parts. So, if one part of the system becomes dysfunctional, it will affect the whole society and create social problems. So, this is where workload happens because when one part of the system is dysfunctional, other individual needs to take over someone else's work. Not only that, functionalism validates some inequality, saying certain people are suited to do certain tasks over others. Some of the behaviors in the workplace that may seem gender neutral and created in isolation may end up producing gender bias when combined with broader exclusionary patterns. For example, the division of the tasks in school are based on the suitability of the gender. Supposedly, every member of the school, which is not only the teachers, need to cooperate in planning and conducting any school's activities. The organization or the committee of the school need to divide the tasks evenly and not put any work on only one person. Every part of the task need to have more than one member and not based on the gender alone. But since functionalism promotes meritocracy, where everyone doing their parts according to their ability, not everyone's going to be equal. People would do certain tasks to make sure they can benefit the society they are living in, and that's just the life, and you can have it where everyone's the same, because not everyone is good at doing everything else. So, this is how discrimination occurs and workload happen to someone. So, I think that is all for the relation of functionalism with the issue on teachers' workload. Now, I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. Before we move to the next part, let me introduce myself. My name is Aida Nazifa binti Rahimi. I will discuss on how can teacher workload be related to the conflict theory of education. First, let me go through to the definition. Conflict theory was developed by Karl Marx, who stated that the society is in a state of perpetuate or everlasting conflict because of competition for a limited resource. In other words, conflict theory in society forever cannot be settled down and cannot be solved. Conflict theory agrees that social order is maintained by domination and power rather than consensus and conformity. Those with wealth and power always got special treatment rather than those poor and powerless. Next, we look to the definition in educational context. First, conflict theories see the purpose of education as maintaining social inequality and preserving the power of those who dominate society. The educational system is perpetuating the social status by decreasing the lower classes into being obedient workers. Second, conflict theory agree that the educational system practice sorting but do not agree about how it enact that sorting. School trains those in the working classes to accept their position as a lower class member of society. Conflict theory called this role of education the hidden curriculum. Next, let's look the example of issue teachers workload that can be related to the conflict theory. Changing in the teaching and learning process during pandemic. In this context, the Ministry of Education is at the highest level in the hierarchical system. Thus, MOE is the most dominant and powerful in the educational system. The teachers are seen as government servants at the bottom of the hierarchical system. Once the government released the new circular, compulsory for the teachers to follow it. The teacher need to follow all the instruction and rule by the MOE related to the education. In the last years, especially during the pandemic era, the job as teacher has become more and more stressful. Temporarily, the government announced that all the education sectors need to close and replace with online learning. The impact of the COVID-19 outbreaks on online learning, many teachers and students face difficulty and challenge in teaching and learning online. Teachers need to face many difficulties and challenges other than adapting themselves to how to teach online. For example, teachers are responsible for ensuring all the students have joined the online class, or else teacher will be asked by the higher up why some students are not joining the class. Therefore, teachers also need to be alert to student problems such as student economic issues. Most students from lower social background have economic issue, where most of them cannot join the online class because there is no mobile data or they need to share the device with their siblings. Therefore, we can see why conflict theory agree that the educational system practice looting but does not agree about how it enact that looting. The second example of issue teacher workload that can be related to conflict theory is changing to assessment format. The Ministry of Education is at the highest level position in the education department. On the contrary, the teachers are in a lower position and are seen as servant and obedient worker to MOE. Therefore, MOE is the most dominant and powerful in the educational system. Every statement stated and emphasized by the MOE need to follow by the subordinate, referring to the teachers. The change in assessment format and implementation of school-based assessment in which the examination is eliminated lead to teacher workload. The teacher has become more and more stressful. For example, the pressure to ensure the change reach the MOE objective and expectation. Then, school-based assessment tend to teacher obtain criticism from the parents. Grade provided through the assessment lead to parents reacting offensively if their children do not have the expected success. The teacher often reacts distrustful and upset. If the student do not show the desired grade, parents criticize the teacher and blame the teacher for being judgmental and biased. Next, I pass the floor to the next presenters.
Now, I will explain to you about the implication of the teacher's workload. Teachers become frustrated if they could not apply the personal development goals acquired via professional development, but due to the workplace factors that were seemingly out of their control. The problem of workload is not confined to individual teachers. It is a collective issue that every school teacher would need to handle. Indirectly, it had affected the teacher in short-term and long-term silently. First, we see for the short-term implication. We have 3 points here, which is stress, burnout, and classroom management that we go through one by one. For the stress, the prolonged stress can produce anxiety, which may impair one's ability to perform tasks. It implies that any teachers experiencing high level of stress may break down, feel vaguely weak, hence restless, low, may become too sick to quit work and refuse to work any further. Stress can increase low productivity due to excessive amounts of paperwork, and at the same time, teachers compromise the relaxation they need, and this might lead to stress. Gender and Wellness stated that in Sweden, teaching reported high level of stress-related symptoms and exhaustions compared to other professions, and they also stated that they experience their workload as unreasonable. And I'm very sure this situation can be related to all the teachers around the world, including in Malaysia, who face the same problem because stress in the teaching profession is an international phenomenon that negatively affects both the teachers and the quality of education. That we move to the burnout. According to American Federation of Teachers 2019 Educator Quality of Work-Life Survey 2017, 16% of teachers indicate that their job were always or often stressful. And the example of their job demand is multiple meetings that interfere with progression of time, administrative paperwork generated by the management, and deal with the new technology system. Teaching is a rewarding yet demanding career with extended hours and a heavy workload. It is easy to fall prey to teachers' burnout. Without proper assistance, teachers are in danger of being overworked and not taking care of their own mental and physical health needs. Next is classroom management skills. Too heavy workload for teacher might affect the classroom management skill in many aspects, such as emotion during teaching. The emotion on that time might be unstable, which can lead them to be angry out of nowhere. Other than that, the skill that being used in teaching also will be affected, which does not effective and will get a positive feedback from the students. As we can see, some teachers hardly to evaluate their lesson or encourage students to participate in classroom learning since they are deprived of their time to do important things related to teaching due of learning work that burden them. Okay, next we can see for the long term, we have 4 points here which is workload, performance, discipline, and multitasker. Now we go to the workload first. During these 2 decades, teaching is being more challenging as a profession. More paperwork, more bureaucracy, and more unruly classes. Teachers has many things in mind. Their attention is divided into many tasks, and they also consider many things such as teaching students who lack of motivation, maintaining discipline in the class, being exposed to large amount of change, being judged, evaluated by others, and so on. These too many or too heavy workload may affect the teacher's emotion or the lifestyles. Next, we go for the performance. The performance of the teachers can be seen on the teacher's individual characteristics. For instance, those who have the positive thinking on all organizational tasks tend to seriously complete their work and they're able to take benefit from the new challenging tasks as the opportunity to move forward. Conversely, to those who have negative thinking on all organizational tasks tend to work haphazardly and take no benefit from new challenging tasks. They tend to bring out a lot of complaints such as work is not appropriate or work is too heavy or friends cannot work collaboratively and so on. And this leads them to a subsequent low performance. Next is discipline. For the time management, those who have a positive mind, they can adapt with the situation and they can manage the time properly and how to divide time based on their work assigned. And it is vice versa for those who refuse or still have the negative minded towards all the work assigned to them. From this, we can see on how the attitude of the teachers change either in positive or negative way. Next is dividing the tasks. If they have adapted with all the work, or in the other words, they have been expert in any work assigned, there should be no problem for them to divide the work according to the level of the works. Which one they need to prioritize first. And a multitasker. Once you were assigned many tasks in one time, it actually helps you to challenge yourself and learning a new thing. Same goes to the teachers. It is depend on how they accept the situation. Indirectly, the task given will help them being expert in many aspects and they also have a good time management on how to control the work assigned for not being a burden to them. Next, we go to the how to overcome. This is the suggestions. First, the school management. School authorities systematically provide a balanced work for teachers and review the workload of teachers as a move forward improving the quality of teaching, such as sharing responsibility among the teacher and learn to delegate duties in order to reduce work done by individual. Next is ask the cooperation from the others. For example, here we can say if there any issue related with the fund of the school, they can ask the parents and teachers organization, or the term that be used in the school is PIPG, for the suggestion or opinion which indirectly can lessen the burden of the teacher's workload. Next is counseling session. This is the very important one for the teachers who need a mental health therapy. The session could help them to be more calm and they can think more rational. So by doing that, they can easily adapt with their work. Indirectly, their mental health can be taken care. I think that's all from our group.